Hello there, everybody. I watched part 2 before I watched part 1, but we're not worried about the order. We're just worried about what's going on in Dubai.
However bad the West might get, you should never move to Dubai. Forget all the videos you see of celebrities being paid off to hype up Dubai's latest mega project.
This is why I chose to live in Dubai and not in LA. It's no longer the American dream, it's the Dubai dream.
See, after traveling to 80 countries around the world, I found that Dubai is the best place to live and work.
Deep dive Dubai, I'm about to go down. Deepest pool on earth, 200 feet deep.
I'm good. I don't even know how to swim like that.
The truth is a lot dirtier. Behind the lip fillers, the
if my feet can't touch the bottom and I can't jump back up just to save myself, I'm good.
Skyscrapers and the fake beaches, Dubai is a modern-day nightmare. A city as rock solid and steady as the sand it was built on. It's a mirage in the desert that's doomed to failure. You see, if you type in Dubai into the search bar on YouTube, you'll generally find two kinds of videos. Some call out for the hellscape it is, listing off the human rights abuses and the truckload of reasons it's an awful place to live. But the others seem to say the exact opposite.
Let's see. Let's do it. Dubai explained why I left Dubai. Flying over Dubai 4K. Fake city. It's so over for Dubai. Best hotel in Dubai. Dubai is everything wrong with society. I'm watching that one right now. Why you should visit Dubai. Wait, this was in Dubai, that building. I know they were doing the islands and stuff.
There's tons of vlogs by Instagram models bragging about how amazing, safe and clean the city is. All the guys in Bugattis driving around, banging hoes and paying no taxes. So which is it? Well, somewhat confusingly, they're both kind of true. If you're a wealthy influencer, Dubai can seem like a paradise. I've been tempted myself. Beachfront apartments, no income taxes and a large community of like-minded expats makes it the perfect place to set up a business and fit out your Instagram story. You can barely walk a block through the center without seeing a car dealership or a glistening mega mall. It's a place that's been designed for luxury, a playground for the rich and powerful. The one thing you can't deny is that Dubai is absolutely stuffed with money. This might imply that there's actually opportunity here, but just like everything else, it's all part of the image. Countless numbers of young Instagram models and hopeful young people move to Dubai and the UAE every year searching for their fortune. Now, of course, most of them won't make it. There's only so many likes and followers to go around, leading lots of them to turn to the infamous Dubai porta potty industry. Details are sketchy, with predatory NDAs and embarrassment
we heard about this
information. Some of it's far too sketchy to discuss on YouTube, but there's tons of examples of hopeful models getting massive offers from ruling elites for the most depraved acts you can imagine. Enticed by the offer of free flights, stays in luxury hotels, and 5-digit lump sums, models are coerced into giving up their dignity. One report talks about a perverted party at a secluded mansion, in which she was paid $50K for acting out the owner's sick desires. Another model showed off her DMs where she was approached for presents, getting offered $7K for her trouble. For a country where anything above hand-holding can get you a jail sentence, rumors are shocking, but suppressing these kinds of stories is key for Dubai's future plans. If they do a bad job of it, they could scare young people and their money away. In the same way, all the vapid skyscrapers and artificial islands are part of a calculated ploy to turn Dubai into the tourism capital of the world. And it's sort of working so far. Many people are seeing Dubai as the new trendy place to go on holiday, with Dubai regularly being in the top 120 most visited cities in the world. But why have the UAE spent trillions on getting what used to be a small desert town there? Obviously, the UAE and other Middle Eastern nations are entirely dependent on oil for their income. It's what made them some of the richest countries in the world. But eventually, either the oil wells would run dry or the world would stop needing what's piped out of them. So what then? Well, the UAE is building Dubai into the empty paradise it is to prepare for this. It's a race against time. They need to diversify their income enough and prepare for the inevitable. It's a pattern we've surprisingly seen before in history. Cities with no significant natural benefits elevated to the wealthiest place in the world in the space of a generation. When the Mongol Empire raised and pillaged the majority of the known world, they became the richest people on the planet. Thousands of tons of gold and gems, along with the world's best scholars, artists, craftsmen and workers, were brought back to Karakorum, the Mongol capital. A great palace was built to display it all, and what used to be a collection of tents became a sprawling city. But it was all painfully temporary. Conquest had brought it all there, and once the empire collapsed, the city was burnt to the ground and the wealth and the people disappeared. The same example has happened numerous times in other cities. Samarkand, once the seat of the mighty Timurid Empire, is a shadow of its former self. All that remains those days are the great ruins of the crumbling palace. Great wealth and peoples gathered in a temporary.
Hey Arizona residents, are you looking for a dental office? Feel like this?
And you're looking for, I don't even know what you said.
Boom, vanishing in a generation or two. Dubai is exactly the same, except it's even more lacking. There are no great structures or creativity that will stand the test of time. Instead, their palaces and monuments are made out of steel, concrete, and glass. If left unmaintained, they will be eaten by the desert in just a few decades. And you can understand this by having a quick look at the history of the city. Long before the skyline was dominated by vapid skyscrapers, Dubai was actually a quaint fishing village known for pearl diving and trading. Since the 19th century, Dubai had been under the British protectorate, all the way up until 1971, and the British influence in the region significantly shaped the region's political and economic systems. Like many other similar nations, such as Singapore and Hong Kong, the British laid the groundwork for Dubai's international outlook and initial infrastructure development, because just around the time that the British were leaving the region, Dubai would discover oil, completely changing the trajectory of the UAE, and the newfound wealth that came from it was smartly invested into modernizing infrastructure, constructing new schools, hospitals, roads, and a modern port. The kingdom knew that they would have to diversify the money from the oil to keep the money machine going, and this marked the inception of Dubai's transition towards becoming the place we know today, where the government would keep on investing to make sure Dubai was a hub for finance, trade, tourism, and real estate, making this desert dirt patch one of the most famous cities in the world. And this strategic diversification, coupled with an economic policy, attracted foreign investments and global talents, propelling Dubai into the international stage. Along with no taxes, Dubai is the perfect place for the rich. And as more and more money came in, Dubai's leadership would take more and more gambles, doing everything they could to stand out, building crazy architecture with no actual meaning or heritage just to show off on the world stage, creating things like the Burj Khalifa and these artificial islands that were all part of a deliberate strategy to etch Dubai's name on the global map. These infrastructural marvels were not merely about aesthetic appeal, but they embodied Dubai's ambition to transition from its humble past to a future filled with boundless possibilities. But to fuel this rapid growth in the country, they couldn't do it just by themselves. Hardly anyone lived in this region, and the foreign investors weren't going to be making the buildings. And so it quickly became clear that Dubai needed labor, and fast. And so to fuel its rapid development, Dubai would do everything it could to bring in huge swaths of migrant workers into the country. And this is where the foundations of Dubai would become very shaky. Around 90% of the population of the UAE are immigrants as well. The majority come from India, Africa, or other developing countries. Unlike Karakoram or Salman Khan's people, they weren't brought there by war. Instead, it's economic pressure and desperation that has sucked them in. Their experiences are the real Dubai, and it couldn't be any further from what the influencers are showing off.
Several investigations into Qatar stadiums revealed that employers usually house workers in private camps far from city centers, where they are forced to live in overcrowded rooms and unsanitary conditions.
That's disgusting.
And at work, their lives are put at risk. Migrant workers are often given the most dangerous jobs on the site.
In many ways, the same things that bring influencers to Dubai are also what brought the millions of migrant workers opportunity. In countries like Nepal, India, Bangladesh, the Philippines, and all around the world, people hear about how they can support their families by working abroad. Agents from recruitment companies promise them good wages, accommodation, and a way to make a life for their loved ones. The first part of the exploitation comes as a large recruitment fee, often around $2,000. The workers are told this covers their visa and travel. In reality, it's simply extortion. It also keeps them in debt, a key part of the scam as it limits their options to escape. The total of illegal fees for just one security company operating in this way, G4S, amounted to millions of dollars, and that's just one company. Once they arrive in the UAE, their passports are confiscated and they're sent to live in dismal camps on the outskirts of the city. One Vice documentary shows a warehouse, where each cramped room houses 9 people each, with only one shower between every 5 rooms. The wages they were promised get slashed by 2/3 in some cases, the previous contracts getting ripped up. Then the payment of these meager salaries are often delayed or simply forgotten, leaving the workers and their families at home in even more peril.
The guys are being paid almost.
You know, whenever stuff like this happens, I always wonder, like, if everybody's like, we're not working, then what do they do? Like if everybody, like not a single person worked until they got their paycheck, wouldn't they have to pay? Or like, cause you know, bringing in more people would be like, would still cost money. And then even if you brought them in, they could just stay in their rooms, right? And then if more people are brought in, they could just tell those people that, yeah, you shouldn't work until all of us get paid, because they're not paying people, right? And they're not going to pay you either. So that's why I'm always confused about stuff like this. Because like, if everybody just said, we're not working, then what? I mean, you can't get tossed in jail, like all 50,000 of you guys, but I'm just curious. I mean, it's gonna be like, I don't think it would be like 50,000. It'd be like 100 people, huh? In like one of those camps, or I said camps, but like the housing area.
That's nothing to build it.
So they're being built by slaves.
That's not an exaggeration, yeah.
Really?
Once they find themselves out there and they realise how much they're getting paid or how much they're not getting paid, they're indebted by the time they arrive there, so it is bonded labour.
When the pandemic hit, it threw everything into disarray. The UAE made promises that companies had to provide food and shelter even if they fired their employees. Often though, this didn't really happen. In fact, lots of these common practices are still illegal under UAE law, but they're rarely enforced. The workers are too worried about losing what little income they have to go to the authorities. If they're owed money and they leave, they likely won't see it again. One man described being owed 10 months of salary, vowed that he couldn't return home empty-handed to see his family in need. Another needed surgery and incurred medical expenses. His employers began taking 75% of his salary to pay it off, keeping him in indentured servitude. Now, of course, the UAE and Dubai's government pushes this all into the background. Under what's called the kafala system, migrant workers.
That is crazy.
Mobile games are going big.
10 months of not getting paid.
Clans.
Like, after the first month, wouldn't you stop working and just stay there? Like, after the first month of not getting paid out, like, wouldn't you just leave and then go back to your place and work there instead? Like, you could stay here and get paid for nothing, or you could go back to where you're from and get paid at least a little something. I don't know how it is over there.
Rights are meant to be upheld by the companies they're working for. As non-citizens, they're relatively unprotected by labor laws, have no minimum wage, and are left to their employees' mercy. These people who built everything that makes Dubai what it is today are forgotten and swept aside. So what have they all been working tirelessly in unbearably hot desert temperatures to create? Well, unfortunately, just like nearly everything in Dubai, it's all in service of appearances. The most recognizable landmark in Dubai has to be the Burj Khalifa. The tallest building in the world, despite having numerous problems, is probably the city's greatest achievement so far. Its construction was plagued by accusations of typical worker abuse, with allegations of labourers being paid less than £3 a day. And when it was finally completed, the sewage system supporting it wasn't nearly capable enough. It's what led to the need for scores of sewage trucks to ship it out after the system was overloaded. A viral video shows the massive queues of sewage trucks, although most weren't coming from the Burj Khalifa.
The sewage is transported away using trucks. You might be surprised that the tallest building in the world, which is a spectacle in every other way, does not cater to this serious dilemma.
A new system estimated for completion in 2025 will apparently solve this problem though. Even with these issues, Burj Khalifa is probably the best of a bad bunch of Dubai's senseless construction projects. The artificial islands, like the Palm Fronts and the Wild Islands, are far worse. The problem started with the sand. You would expect Dubai to have an endless supply of it. Other than oil, it's the only thing that Dubai always has plenty of. But desert sand couldn't be used. The grains were too large and it would just melt away into the sea. Instead, they needed a specific type of sand pulled up from the seafloor using specialist trawler ships. 94 million tons of sand were taken from just the Palm Islands, destroying the ecosystem off of the coast of Dubai. The result is 40 kilometers of new coastline, but not much else. Home to over 40 hotels and a collection of mansions for the ultra-rich, they amount to yet another playground for the rich and wealthy. Without constant replenishment and sea defenses, they'll disappear into the water. The Wild Islands are just another artificial land project, but they're in even more peril. Designed to represent different parts of the world laid out on a rough map, most of them are still just piles of sand, left unfinished and uninhabitable. They're also slowly sinking into the sea, which combined with rising sea levels means all of the artificial land exists on borrowed time. And this was supposed to be their groundbreaking project that would house the ultra wealthy and ultra high class shops. And one other ridiculous project recently undertaken by Dubai is the construction of an artificial replica of the moon. The $5 billion proposal details a carbon fiber orb 200 meters across, with the usual luxury spas, hotels and houses included within. It still isn't guaranteed to happen, but the paperwork's moving along and you can easily imagine it in Dubai. At least it may provide an alternative for billionaires taking their own pleasure cruises into space. But it's a mockery of nature, which in Dubai hasn't really found a footing. The city is sparse when it comes to actual greenery, other than the odd palm tree or water-hungry lawn. There was a project to grow and transplant 1 million desert trees to make the city a bit more palatable. Announced in 2010, 130,000 square meters of land was dedicated to growing the saplings into actual trees, but halfway through the project, it all fell apart. Another project this time for a $5 billion mega mall got in the way. The land, the energy, and the water needed to grow were requisitioned. Workers were barred from the site and the project was all but abandoned. By 2020, over 80% of the trees had died in the desert heat, without any water. The plan for the mall that was meant to replace them was then also abandoned, a testament to the instant gratification culture of Dubai and the sheer wastefulness that permeates the city. All of this is kept in place by authoritarian laws designed to safeguard the rich and powerful. Punishments are often draconian. One British national was recently slapped with a 25-year sentence for having just a few bottles of CBD oil in his car, a non-psychoactive substance. Another woman was recently released after 9 months after she allegedly touched the arm of an airport security official. The police can arrest you on trumped-up charges and the courts can sentence you to decades for the smallest of crimes. It leads to a palpable fear and respect of the authorities, which is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it's part of what makes Dubai so safe. It's why people like Andrew Tate and all these other influencers love this place. They can have their Rolexes on the beach and be fine, which is great, as many people describe accidentally leaving their bag in public then coming back hours later to find it untouched, as the punishments for theft are so harsh that people just will never risk it. And living somewhere with useless and corrupt authorities can make this seem like a dream come true. But of course, it's mostly surface level. Petty crimes are punished harshly, but institutional abuse and systemic schemes of exploitation are ignored. Just like everything else, it makes it better for sensible tourists and elites, but much worse for the migrant worker population. But it doesn't have to be this way. You just need to look at Singapore, a city that's almost identical to Dubai in its origins, and yet they both operate so differently, with a vastly different culture. You see, these two cities both came from humble origins, small little fishing areas, to huge modern urban centers. So how come today these two cities are so different culturally and fundamentally? Well, it's not just religion. You see, Singapore is widely known now as the Garden City, due to its relentless pursuit of integrating urban growth with environmental stewardship. It's been meticulously urban planned, with well-orchestrated public transportation networks, abundant greenery, and innovative land use, demonstrating the leadership's long-term vision for sustainable growth in the city. On the contrary, Dubai's leadership focuses on glossy monuments to materialism, these giant hollow skyscrapers, bizarre islands on glossy monuments.
Are these Arabic words? Because I feel like this is saying something. I feel like you could probably read a word off. I feel like you could read a word or two off here. I don't know, like everything. I feel like some stuff might be designed like this, might just be like a bird or something, and then like something like this right here, this like 3 shape, and then with this might be like a word. I feel like right here, this looks maybe like a word. I don't know. Or like a letter, materialism,
these giant hollow skyscrapers, bizarre island projects, and luxury at all cost hotels completely overshadows the human need to be in nature, and also what they're doing to nature. Projects like their artificial islands completely destroy the marine ecosystems, and far from being sustainable long term. But it's not just the environmental concerns that divides these two cities. The real difference here is how Singapore and Dubai both treat their migrant workers. You see, both of them rely on immigrant labor. Almost all their population is migrants, and yet Singapore's labor policies are so much different to Dubai's. They promote fair employment practices, ensure competitive wages, and foster a very safe and healthy working environment. Initiatives like the progressive wage model and the skills future movement underscore.
I feel like if you're like the lowest of the low or good, like the lowest is good, then the highest is gonna be better. If you get what I mean. Like if you're immigrant workers, you're like minimum wage workers are good, right? I don't know if you would say minimum wage, but like the lowest you could possibly get are good, then your top is gonna be crazy good, like excellent. I don't know if that makes sense though. It's like I feel like it would like sprinkle up or like keep, I don't know how to explain it.
Singapore's commitment to enhancing the employability and welfare of its workforce. Dubai, however, is completely the opposite. It has terrible labor practices, awful rights and living conditions for migrant construction workers. There's no minimum wage law, and they'll often withhold migrant wages in Dubai. In Singapore, they have structured policies aiming to ensure that foreign workers complement the city rather than substituting the local workforce, and their legal framework provides avenues for dispute resolution, safeguarding both employee and employee interests, whereas Dubai's kafala system restricts the rights of migrant workers and makes them dependent and vulnerable on the government. Singapore emphasizes continuous learning and skills upgrading to not only enhance the competitiveness of its workforce, but also to promote social mobility. But in Dubai, you either have money or you don't. And if you don't have money, you almost have no chance of going up the ladder. The only rich people in Dubai are the Dubai-born elites themselves and the businessmen looking to escape tax laws in their own countries. Regular migrant workers, though, have almost no chance of going up the ladder. And whilst both the countries are extremely harsh on crime, making the cities very safe for people, Singapore at least has some hints of democracy. There is some level of free speech, albeit within certain bounds, whereas Dubai's monarchical system censors any dissenting voices, limits any public discourse, and represses free thought. It all goes to show, don't just willingly believe all these influencers, people like Will Smith and all the other scores of celebrities that are paid millions to advertise Dubai as a paradise. The city is a tragic example of what's wrong with the modern world, a small group of elites creating vanity projects off of the back of millions of desperate workers, half of which gets abandoned or forgotten by the next shiny mega project. At least we can be safe in the knowledge that it won't go on forever. Eventually the facade will crumble as people realize the empty, vacuous nature that permeates Dubai.
Very good video, Moon. Very, very good video. I liked it. I liked it. Very good editing. Very good information. Traveled almost all over Europe, and I got so used to the experience of landing in a European city, walking around walkable streets, seeing locals go about their day, chilling in a park, or even taking public transports to the edge of the city to escape their urban sprawl. And then I came to Dubai. Our trip had this Boston transition feel to it. I was there alone, moving through the empty streets under the skyscrapers, getting on the metro line, and only ever seeing people from India, Pakistan, Africa, never any Arab people. Then walking these long roofed corridors for 20 minutes to get from one place of interest to the other, then being surrounded by vapid influencers in the malls taking selfies. Imagine you walk into a mall and then it's just a bunch of IG models that just got shit on that came on to take selfies. I'm dead. The best way to describe my experience there would be surreal. Like I was walking in a dream, never able to connect with anything or anyone on an emotional level, just cruising through, what is that? Spaces in an artificial environment in a place where nothing lives. Damn. Bro thought that out. But yeah, like, subscribe. See you guys later. Hope you have a good day or night, and bye.